I did not that well. But networkamerica.org, we revamped the menu tabs. And there is one on there now for conference calls, of course, which is the Sunday night, how to get in here. And then there's also one for recorded conference calls. I can't remember what it says. Maybe I should look at what it says so I can tell you exactly what it says. But and anyway, let's see if I can. Yeah, the one of the tabs says join conference calls is where you can find out how to join. The other one says conference call, CONF is abbreviated, conference call video archive. So we had a special thing. So if people want to watch any of the past calls or this call in the future, they can find it at that tab. And then we have find your state and county leaders, which we have some volunteering. Okay, so let's see. Let me get back where I can see.
All right, we are live on YouTube, people. If you want to share it with others or put it on your social media, please, by all means, do that, because that would help us a lot.
Okay, good. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. Usually we wait till 8:02. We'll just wait 2 more minutes.
Yeah, sure.
And then, so I usually give about a 12-minute presentation on what is the precinct system, why are we doing it, and that's for new people, which is mainly what this call is for. However, then we discuss. Then we'll have the guest, which this week is Dan Schultz, and then then we'll have discussion and how we're trying to implement around the country, and any questions or objections, criticisms, suggestions that you have. Okay. So I'm a little worried. I wonder if one of us should call Dan and make sure that remembers that what time it is.
He usually is on time, but then again, yeah, it's not a bad idea to just maybe remind him. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me, first of all, let's see. Where's my phone?
Can I suggest something? I had trouble finding the meeting ID. So maybe text him the link?
No, he's been on every week just about.
Okay.
He's been on every week.
Yeah, the meeting ID. I mean, the best thing is to just click on that link and it just takes you automatically. And the ID is inside of that link that you see. So you don't even have to enter it at all. Unless if you are calling from a phone, then that's different. There are at least a couple of people I'm seeing here, they're using their phone and they need to enter that ID number. Other than that, you don't really need it. You don't even need the password. We don't have any password because it's kind of like a public meeting, and we want everybody who's interested in MPC be able to come and say something unless and until they're obnoxious. Then we have an option of basically letting other people know that hey, this person is no longer in the meeting. So
okay, Q, I'm going to get started. Dan is coming on.
Okay.
His Eminence Dan Schultz, whose appearance on Steve Bannon kicked everything into high gear.
Coming in.
But my name is Jim Conda Jr. of Network America. Today is May 23rd, 2021. Sunday night call for new people and veterans, but the first few minutes is for new people. So if somebody is happening into this or is watching this at a later date, two things we want to explain. One, that there is a neighborhood precinct committeeman system that exists. I was an alternate delegate at the age of 19 to the Nixon convention, which those of you who are on the call have to hear every week. And I was 19 and they wanted young people and some minorities because Nixon had it locked up way back then. And so I was passed out literature with the Republican Party. I was chosen because the girl who was supposed to go, whose dad was a big donor, was 3 months too young. It was kind of a major turning point in my life. So I was involved in politics, ran for city council in 1979, blah, blah, blah. And you want to feel stupid? Think how stupid I felt. In 1986, when one of our people who we were trying to affect changes like we are now in various things, wasn't nearly as serious a situation in many ways. But one of my friends came to you and said, you got to talk to Rick Herron about the Precinct project. That's how we take back the country. I guess it was late in 86. And I said, oh. So I talked to Rick Herron, who I'll tell you about in a minute. And I found out that the party leaders at the county level and the state and the national are picked by the precinct, neighborhood precinct executives in each precinct. All the elected precinct executives in that county have a meeting nobody knows about, okay? They have a meeting nobody knows about, and a month after the primary in the even years. And they pick the party heads. Now, until then, I'm a high school graduate, college graduate. I had just assumed, well, I guess the rich people pick the party leaders, right? That's what I thought. I guess the rich people do. And they still do it in a way. They still do in a way because we're not, but they shouldn't be picking. So then I realized, no, actually, our country, in the state law of Ohio and elsewhere, gives the people a chance to get in this system, because whether we like it or not, and I'm a Constitution Party type guy at heart. Some people I know are libertarians at heart. But the Republicans and the Democrat control every county in the United States, every one. So to get into a position of influence, you got to control those parties. Okay. So I learned that. And so that's what I learned. And Rick Herron made a little thing called The Most Powerful Office in the Land. He gave a speech that's like 4 pages on, and that's on our networkamerica.org website somewhere. I should know these things, but it's on there somewhere, maybe under more. Really a great thing. Now, he was talking to pro-lifers. You can put in Second Amendment, Bill of Rights, whatever you want. I read it again the other night to edit it for an face-to-face meeting we had in Cincinnati of precinct interested people. And it's really great. It is really great. Okay. And there's other good articles too. And you're going to hear Dan talk here in a minute, Dan Schultz. So I guess what I want to say to everybody is there is a neighborhood precinct system. And what is that? There's one country. We're talking about the United States, of course, right? There is 50 states. Most people know you live in a county. You know, I live in Hamilton County in Cincinnati. You know what county you live in. Most people are only vaguely aware there's about 3,141 counties in the United States. That's the number usually used. What they don't know, and what I didn't know, is that each precinct is divided into a little geographical territory, usually about 9 or 10 streets around your house in the city, and maybe a little more territory in the country. And your precinct that you vote in and all the other people in your area vote in, we vote on election day at White Oak Senior Center, okay, and about 5 precincts do. But the precinct that I live in and you live in is every bit is definitely defined, precisely defined as your state and your county, okay? And if you get a walking list online in some counties or buy it for $2 usually at the Board of Elections, you will find that it's so exact that, like, if you're in a precinct with a main street, 2422 Main Street might be in your precinct, and 2244, one house away, might be in the next guy's precinct. Okay, so that's the system. That's the system that is set up. Well, what is it? Well, Abraham Lincoln referred to the precinct system back in 1860. He said, "Have all our precinct people get out and walk around the neighborhood and try to get out the vote." Okay, so this is a long time system. It is what was set up. I shouldn't say the founding fathers. Many of them didn't want parties, but was set up long ago. And it is right now the only peaceful and constitutional way to take back our country. Okay, it's the only way to do it peacefully and constitutionally. I was on a call with a guy named Patrick Wood the other night, and the other day, and we were talking about how things are in the country. And he said, "Look, the last thing I want to see," Patrick Wood said, some of you may have heard of him, "is Americans shooting at each other again, like the Civil War." But, you know, myself and Dan Schultz and all of you, for decades, many of us have been working peacefully to take back this country, and that's what we're still doing. The Second Amendment was put there as the final stopgap, and nobody's that I'm talking to is ruling that out, but we don't want to do it. And as Dan is going to emphasize in a minute, if a fraction of the people that supported Trump or are a part of the NRA or Right to Lifers or Ron Paulers or you name it, a fraction, 250,000 to 300,000 people about in precincts in the country. Okay. Or some places let more than one be in an area, but just say 300,000 people. If 300,000 alert Americans like you who are on this call learned about the precinct system and ran for precinct at the May primary or at the caucus, whenever it is in your state, then we could have enough people flooding the system to take over both the Republican and the Democratic Party at the county, state, national level and change Congress, save the country. Okay. I always say there's no reason the Democratic Party should be the Communist Party the rest of our life. Let's have it once we get beyond the now concentration, most of us agree, is on the Republican Party. But if everybody understood this, if they understood it as good as going to vote, or maybe writing a letter to their congressman, we would be overwhelming them. And I believe, even though these big cities are tough, they push back when you try to run a lot of people, usually they would fall if enough people involved. They would fall. Okay. So what happens is, I'm going to use Ohio as an example because every state is different. We have the law, state law in our state. You get 5 signatures. And at the May even year primaries, 2022 coming up, you get 5 signatures in February, by February something or other, and then you're on the ballot for the May primary. Okay, let's say it's May 5th-ish next year. I'm not sure when it is, but let's say it's May 5th. So when you go to the polls, then the congressman, if there's 2 Republican congressmen wanting, so it's primary. You pick Republican, Democrat, or Independent, or Libertarian if they have a status in the state, and if they're recognized as a party because they went through some hoops. But you will see the congressman, the dog catcher, the coroner, and if there's opposition, you vote for one, and whoever wins that primary election goes on to November and then has a good chance to become the congressman. Maybe 100% chance if it's a heavily Republican district. And at the end of that is precinct committeeman. It might just say committeeman in Ohio. And if you run and get your 5 signatures from your area, as prescribed, your little petition, just like you're running for Congress. And if you are unopposed, you vote for yourself and you win. Okay. And if you're opposed, whoever gets the most votes win. That's how it works. In Kentucky, it's a caucus right across the river from me. They have a caucus night. A girl told me 10 years ago, it was snowing. She showed up at the school where they, high school, they're going to meet in the high school gym or something. She was the only one there. She voted for herself and she was the precinct exec. Now, here's where we're losing the country. By state law in Ohio, and there's a law in your state, within 30 days of when the primary is. So let's say June 5th as an example, 1 month after the May 5th primary. There's a meeting that is virtually secret. The party doesn't tell you about it. Certainly the media doesn't tell anybody about it. And on one night, all the elected precinct executives, neighborhood precinct executives from their precinct, all the elected ones show up at a meeting. Democrats one night at the hotel room, Republicans another night, maybe at convention center or a high school gymnasium. So when the Republicans meet, that's where we elect the party leaders. The county party leaders, county Republican Party leaders, okay, at that meeting. We're losing the country because we're not there. We should have thousands of people at that meeting, even in big counties, just watching if they didn't get elected even, and making their voice heard before and after the meeting. And the elected precinct exec could make it their voice heard during the meeting. But the most important thing is we're going to elect the party leader and his executive committee for the next 2 years. And that party leader basically rules with the roost. And I'm not saying that as an insult to them, because most people go home and they do the job. Nobody's trying to do it most of the time. They endorse the candidates. So that's what happens. We're losing the country at that meeting because we don't have alert patriots who are going to be pushing back on all this stuff that's encroaching on our liberty. We have basically people that work for the county, in the big counties anyway, and they have to vote with the party leaders, okay? Most of the time, if they want to keep their job or have a best chance for the next promotion, okay? So we want the patriots whose job do not depend on anybody as far as, in the politics. So, okay, I'm going to wind up down now by saying, well, why are we doing this? Why would anybody care to do this? The reason is because the power of that precinct executive, neighborhood precinct executive, and again, we're using the Republican Party as an example. The power is so great. That's why Rick Herron's speech was called the most powerful office in the land. Phyllis Schlafly at Eagle Forum picked it up and later wrote an article called "The Most Powerful Office in the World is Not the President of the United States." Actually, once he's in there, I think it is. So I like Rick Herron's title better, but it's a good article also. Dan Schultz at his website, precinctstrategy.com, has great short videos explaining this. You can see the Steve Bannon interview there that kicked this off. So what is the local party? Why do you want to elect that head of the Republican Party using the Republican Party as an example? Remember, same in the Democratic Party. One, the county leaders in each county decide how the votes counted. And after this election, we got to get back to a transparent, verifiable, honest vote. Got to do it. And you're only going to do it if you have tough-minded patriots in charge of these parties. So that's where you decide how the votes counted. And every county has the right to count the votes with paper ballots right there, counted by pre-selected neighbors, randomly selected. They have the right to count paper ballots at the neighborhood polling place before the ballots leave the public site. That's what should be done, not take them away and run them through a secret, unknowable computer system or any other kind of a secret count. Okay. So that's really important. If we don't get back to an honest, verifiable count, I don't know that we're going to quit sliding. The country's going to quit sliding in the wrong direction. Then they endorse the Congress candidates or the council candidates. But let's take Congress. In the last 100 years, way before computer voting came in, 95% of the endorsed candidates at the primary won. 95%. And that's because the party usually has the manpower to have somebody at every precinct passing out, like Rick says in his speech. Rick Herron says, hey, it's election day. Snuck up on me. I don't know any of the issues. I don't know any of the, or I don't know many. I don't know all the, you get there, and if you're a Republican, they hand you a sheet and you go in and vote for it. That's why the endorsed candidate wins 95% of the time. So is that important? That's how in one cycle we could change the Congress and put it back to where you had breathing local neighborhood normal people like us breathing fire for liberty again in the Congress. One cycle that could be done. Okay. Then the party leaders in Ohio, they all get together in Columbus, 88 counties, 88 leaders. They elect maybe the senators and congressmen are allowed to have a vote, and they elect the party leader for the state that sets all the rules for so much, including the primaries, endorses the senators in that state, endorses the president sometime. And then those 50 party leaders get together in St. Louis or something, and they elect the national leader, which now is Rhoda. I think it's Rhoda Romney. I know it's Romney McDaniel. I think it's Rhoda is her first name. Maybe not Rhoda, but it's Romney, Ms. Romney McDaniel, Romney's relative, was elected last time. Nobody knows this is happening. Nobody knows how these people get there. And so they elect the national leader, okay? And then they set all the rules for the presidential primary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So is that a lot of power? That is a lot of power. And there's other powers that come with it. And they all happen because we started at the county level, because neighborhood precinct like you and me, okay, did what we needed to do. So I'm a little bit miffed and mad at, so a breakthrough happened. We're going to get to our guest in a minute, Dan Schultz of Arizona, attorney. When we ran our Network America calls like this in 2007, which mostly were Ron Paulers in, but everybody like now is invited to listen and learn their power as a citizen. When we ran that, in 2007, and we're holding calls just like this, except they were on the phone. There was no Zoom. Dan Schultz came on. I don't know how he found out about the call. We were sending out emails everywhere. And Dan is talking now exactly as he talked then, exact same tone of voice, exact same message. And for over a decade, I know he was trying, when Glenn Beck had his big rally in 2008, I think, Million Man March or whatever it was, or they claim they had over 1 million people, at least some people say that. Dan was trying to get Glenn Beck or get to Sarah Palin or get to somebody to tell for 5 minutes from that platform, you have power to run, become a precinct committeeman, and you can change the country and the world by doing that. No, couldn't get him to do it. Couldn't get this one to do it. Couldn't get that one to do it. Well, a few months ago, Steve Bannon, who was a top advisor to Trump at one time, had Dan on the show. That was a major, major breakthrough. and we have people coming into Network America every day.
Excuse me, could you say that again?
Say what again?
What you just said?
Steve Bannon, you mean? His appearance on Steve Bannon?
Yeah.
Well, Dan Schultz, after 13 years of trying, or maybe more, was invited, and he had been working on Bannon a while, okay? And Steve Bannon in the war room had Dan Schultz on as a guest. And everybody's saying, what are we going to do? You've heard people say, get involved, get educated. When people start talking like that, Dan and I have talked
My
often.
name is Hugh. Hugh Daff. And my
Okay.
nickname is Kiss Mike.
Okay, well, you got to wait till the presentations are over, okay? So anyway, when they talk like that, we know they don't know what to do. So Dan got on Steve Bannon in the war room, and he told everybody what to do. And it's still developing because people are like, this is like everybody has, so many of the leaders have an IQ drop to zero. They're brilliant people. They have an IQ drop to zero when they hear about the precinct strategy, okay? And I'm a little miffed at all those NRA and all those other leaders, because they've told you to write your congressman. They've told you to visit your congressman. They've told you to go to rallies and scream and go home. I had great fun at the Trump rallies, the Buchanan rallies, the Ron Paul rally. Those are fun, but the powers that be watch you scream, watch us go home, and they go back to doing what they're doing. So it's almost like our leaders for these past 40 years have said, go to your congressman. They're like superior beings. You're not as good as them. You go to your congressman, please do something for us. Please do something for liberty. Please do stand up for the Constitution, or you're begging them. By the precinct system, you can become the party leaders and become the congressman and support good people. Most of them would be supporting a good person to become the party leaders and become the congressman. And we haven't been told that. Dan Schultz, attorney from Arizona, leading the way here and making what's happening now is happening and is rippling from that appearance on Steve Bannon. And he has more news for us tonight. So Dan, would you take over and give your presentation, and then we'll have discussion and everything, okay?
Sure, thanks, Jim. Can you hear me okay?
A little bit, if you could, I don't know if you can talk in the mic or put it louder, but go try it again.
How about now?
It's a little bit soft, I think. Q, do you agree or not?
All right, I'll try to talk loud.
Okay.
So I don't have too much to report other than, of course, in Georgia, there's been huge turnout because Georgia was going through its election of delegates. They have a caucus system there. So does South Carolina. South Carolina has gone through their entire process. Last weekend, they had their convention, and the incumbent, Drew McKissick, succeeded in making sure that there wasn't a convention. And he got him and his cronies to vote in because of COVID. Whoa, we can't have a mass meeting, even though their governor had said there's no mask mandate in the state anymore and there's no emergency anymore. But anyways, Lynn Wood ran against McKissick and didn't get elected. Drew McKissick pulled out another victory. But the way the process works in South Carolina, it's a caucus system. So you show up first for a precinct meeting where whoever shows up, there's a round robin election, and whoever shows up who's a bona fide Republican, and they check that. Whoever gets the most votes for, I think there's 2 slots per precinct. It may jump to 4 if there's a greater number than a certain number. But it's all in the bylaws. And so then after that, they have county gatherings where they elect their officers and their state delegates. And then eventually they have their state convention where the state delegates go. So they just went through it, and the turnouts have been huge, double, and in some cases triple. And many of the people have said, the reason I'm here is because I watched War Room and I saw this guy named Schultz talk about this, and I wanted to get involved. Same thing happened over in Georgia. Georgia has a very similar system. It's a caucus system. They don't use primary elections. It's all private. And so you can't look up who your fellow PCs are at the elections department because of the county, because they don't have that data. It's purely private, same as South Carolina. And North Carolina, let's see, June 5th, I gave out some bad information Friday night. I was doing a radio interview and I told some people, oh, Georgia's having their state convention tomorrow. I got the dates mixed up. It's not until June 5th. And North Carolina is also having theirs that same day. And as far as Liz Cheney goes, saying that Donald Trump is not the leader of our party anymore, well, then why did North Carolina extend an invitation to Donald Trump, which I believe he's accepted, to be the keynote speaker at their state convention at 6 p.m. at their dinner, because they plan to have everything done by 6 p.m. and then have a dinner on Saturday night. And all I can say to Liz Cheney is not the leader of the Republican Party, my ass, right? Sorry for that. That's my French. But seriously, he is the leader of the party. And what we've got to do, and it's real simple. Look, the numbers are thus. They really haven't changed since 2009 when I started recruiting in earnest because of the election of Barack Hussein Obama. The numbers didn't really change over that 10-year period, 11-year period. There was about 400,000 of these slots in the Republican Party, and 200,000 or fewer were filled. And so that created a huge, and about 50% were good Republicans, conservatives who believed in the total platform. And the other 50% are people that you can call chambercrats or deep staters, swamp dwellers, rhinos, whatever you want to call them, but they're not Republicans. But they use the Republican vehicle to get elected, like Jeff Flake has, like John McCain did over and over and over, like a lot of the people in the state legislatures and in the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. They have an R after their name because it helps them get elected, but they don't believe in what we believe in. Well, there's a real easy way to do that. Of the 50% of the existing slots that are filled by conservatives, if each existing conservative would simply do the following: find one more conservative to become a precinct committeeman, to volunteer to fill it up. Then that 50-50 split goes to 2-to-1 split, right? You've got a 2-to-1 advantage over the rhinos, because the rhinos aren't very good at recruiting. Then if you go get each of us, and then that new cohort that you had, find one more. Now that 50-50 split half-strength party gets transformed almost overnight to a full-strength party with a 75% majority, 25% minority in favor of conservatives. Then when it comes time to elect the officers, I do not call these people, Jim, ever leaders. The people we elect are not our leaders in the party. They are our servants. God bless them for running. Thank you for running. It's a thankless job. It's a lot of work to be an officer, especially a chairman. Okay. But I don't have any leaders in my party. I'm the leader. And everybody on this call is the leader. All of the precinct committeemen collectively, they're the leaders, because without the precinct committeemen, there's no party. The precinct committeemen elect everybody in the party, right? But if we could get each of us who's already in the party to simply recruit 2 more people, and just do that. Recruit. Go find conservatives. Go to where conservatives gather. If there are Tea Party groups still where you live, go there. American Legion groups, go there. VFW posts, go there. Now, listen, I'm a Legionnaire. Not every Legionnaire is a conservative Republican, but there are some there, right? Same thing with the VFW. Go there and just talk about, the American Legion is great because they put on Boys State, right? I went to Badger Boy State in Wisconsin back in the summer of '73. It's terrific. They know this stuff, right? Go to the Legions, go to the VFW. If there are Tea Party groups still, there are 912 groups still. I don't think there are any anymore, but wherever conservative groups go to your church pastor, ask them if you can come in and talk generally about basic American civics. Don't say Democrat, don't say Republican, say I'm not going to name a party, but I want to talk to your flock about maybe it's time that we Christians, even if you're an evangelical Christian, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Jew, whatever the case may be, whatever your religion. I know some Muslims here who are, the way I knew that they probably weren't bad Muslims, because one of them was sitting next to me having a beer, right? At a patriot activism group where we were all given 2 minutes to talk about our respective group. Okay, whatever your faith is, see if you can go talk to your congregation about it. Go if you're pro-life and a member of a pro-life group, go talk to the pro-life group. Go wherever conservatives, people with a conservative mindset are, and then tell them, look, this guy Schultz says, on his blog, precinctstrategy.com. He's got a book that says, look, if we do not do this as a first step, take over one of the two major parties. If we good, decent America firsters who love Donald Trump, if we, just 200,000 of the 74 million don't do this, he guarantees, this guy Schultz guarantees, and I do guarantee it, if we don't get this done by the 2022 primary election season, which is coming up really fast, if we don't get this done in each respective state, we're not going to change who represents us in the state legislatures. We're not going to change who our governors are. We're not going to change who represents us in the US Senate and in the House of Representatives. It's just not going to happen, because if the status quo remains the same, all of the incumbents are going to get reelected. That's just the way it is. So, but if we flood into these precinct committeeman positions and then learn how to get out the vote, and I have a video at my blog that explains how to get out the vote at the precinct level, and it's really easy to do when you've got a full complement of precinct committeemen. You can boost turnout, and in most primary elections, Republican primary elections, only about 20-25% of Republicans bother to vote. If you boost the turnout, which I have done in my precinct multiple times in contested primary election races, you can defeat the incumbent rhinos. You can do it. It's possible. And there's only one way to make that happen, and that is to fill up as many slots as possible. So that's my spiel, basically. Going forward, New York is going to have their meeting soon. I think it's in late June or July. Vermont is having theirs. Then there's going to be kind of a lull for a while. And then starting in January, everything's going to get super busy again. But during this lull, we should all be recruiting and going to our monthly meetings and getting to know one another. Okay. And then building a communications network, and a perfect platform for doing it on is the Network America platform. You can set up chat rooms easily. It's a great platform. I know there's many others that are working on other platforms. There's Cloud Hub, there's Gab, there's MeWe, Donald Trump's thing that he's building. So far, it's a nothing burger. Same thing with Frank's speech. It's a nothing burger. All it is a website. But both of them are telling us, oh, we're going to knock your socks off when this thing comes around. Meanwhile, use Network America or Cloud Hub maybe, or Gab. I have a group on Gab, MeWe, and Cloud Hub, but it's not very interactive. None of them are, but I just use it as a means to promote the, I just wave goodbye to my daughter. Bye, sweetheart, I love you. Okay. Anyways, go there and go into the search pane, type in precinct, you'll find my 3 groups there on any one of those platforms. There's but Network America is really easy to use. I highly recommend people use Network America. It's a great tool. It's a great organizing tool. It's very much like the old FreedomWorks had a great network communications tool, just like Network America. It was called Freedom Connector, but I think they took it down because once people got in there and started communicating, they weren't paying attention to FreedomWorks anymore, because FreedomWorks didn't recruit precinct committeemen, but we were doing it on FreedomWorks's Freedom Connector. And I think they didn't like that, because all of these 501c groups, they want you to be a donor. They don't want you to be an owner of the Republican Party, because once you become an owner of the Republican Party, same thing with PACs, they just want your money. They don't tell you about the precinct committeeman strategy. Same thing with the RNC. They just want your money. They don't want you to be an owner of the party. Precinct committeemen are the owners of the party, and that's why you have to become one, and that's why you have to recruit every other conservative you know to become a precinct committeeman. So that's about all I've got to say tonight. Happy to answer or try to answer anybody's questions, and I'd like to hear what anybody else on this call has to say for the good of the cause. Thanks.
Hey, Dan, thank you. And before you end your official presentation, would you tell us that another big voice started mentioning neighborhood precinct committeeman or precinct committeeman, according to something I got from you this week?
Yeah, I woke up, I think it was yesterday morning, and I had a message from a good friend, Doris Campoverde, who sent me a link to a video clip. It was a video interview of Michael Flynn, General Michael Flynn. And he said 3 things during that, which, you could tell that this was, I've been told that people who know me are talking to him and telling him, hey, this guy Schultz, who also used to be in military intelligence in the Army, has this thing called the precinct committeeman strategy. And so he said, 3 things. First thing, you've got to locally get involved in the Republican Party as a precinct committeeman. Whatever it's called where you live, find out how to do this and get involved and become a ball player in the Republican Party. Number 2, you've got to deluge the school board meetings and demand that they get rid of this critical race theory bunk and get rid of the masks, go back to classroom instruction, et cetera, et cetera. But the only way you're going to make an impact on the school boards is if you get hundreds of people to show up at these meetings, like it has been happening around the country. And then the third thing was, I got to look at my notes here. What did he say? Said one more thing that was kind of related to it. Bear with me. Should have it in my notes here. Yeah. No, not there either. I don't remember what it was, but it was good. Whatever it was along the same lines. It was an action item, It was to actually take concrete political action, as opposed to all of the platitudes that are always said by these people. I remember one time I went to Americans for Prosperity / maybe it was FreedomWorks thing here with Glenn Beck many, many years ago. And this was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, before Obama, I think. And Glenn Beck said over and over and over, he was the last person to speak, and he had this big screen, he had a big teleprompter. I was sitting way up front, so I could see what he was going to say, right? He's just reading this off a teleprompter. And I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you, before I'm done tonight, I am going to tell you what to do. And then the thing to do was to stand for America. That's what you must do. You must stand for America. Really? What does that mean? He didn't want to tell people to do anything but come to these shindigs and then buy everybody's books who paid him to be a vendor. It's all about selling stuff. Look, I'm not selling anything but an idea and my little book. And the reason it's a little book and it's short, it's so that conservatives will read it, because as you know, most conservatives attention span of a gnat. Okay. And I just lay it out. Here's what you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. Become a precinct committeeman, learn the ropes, get involved. Here's how to do it. It varies from state to state, and on and on and on. Okay. And once you read the book, you will become a precinct committeeman. Okay. Price it.
Dan, do you have the book to hold up? I mean, we're not obviously we're not here mainly to sell things, but this is an essential thing for people to read. So I'm going to read it because I can read it. How to get into the real ball game of politics where you live to help President Donald J. Trump make America great again, by Daniel Schultz. And Dan, you've said, and I've stolen this from you, but I want you to tell us, if you are not a precinct committeeman or supporting someone in your precinct who thinks like you, are you in politics or not? Are you involved in determining the future of our country or not?
Yeah, you're not. I can't take you seriously if you're not a precinct committeeman. Look, I have people coming out of the woodwork now contacting me saying, Dan, I'd like to work with you and I think I can help you. And the first question I ask them, are you a precinct committeeman and how long have you been one? And virtually every single one of them has never been a precinct committeeman. And I just can't take those people seriously. And I tell them, go become a precinct committeeman and then come back and let's talk. Okay. And they don't have the foggiest idea how to do it where they live.
Yeah.
You know, and so, I mean, that's a marker. Look, and as you know, Jim, and everybody on this call probably knows, when you're a precinct committeeman, you're part of the elite. The way it works here and in most states, here in Arizona, by statute, each party can only have one precinct committeeman slot for every 125 registered voters or majority portion thereof. Okay, so you're one out of only one out of every 125 or so can be a PC. Right now, with over half of our slots vacant in Arizona, that means that right now only one out of every 300 registered Republicans are in the party, governing it, making it work, getting things done. One out of every 300 Republicans. That's it. We got to get to one out of 125. And it's doable because we have two counties here in Arizona that are at 100% strength. Cochise County down at the border and Graham County over on the east side. And I've talked to both of those county chairs and asked them how they did it. Cochise County did it from 2018 to 2020. They went from under 30% to 100% strength. They got up to, they have all 284 of their slots filled. How did they do it? They said, we focused on it. In 2019, we just got sat down, those of us who knew that we needed to fill all the slots, and we said, let's make this happen. They came out with a plan, and they got all these MAGA people, any conservative group, and they got them signed up, and they told them, look, if you become a appointed PC between now and the end of 2019, in March of 2020, guess what you can do? You can go to the caucus meeting, and only precinct committeemen who are elected or appointed before the end of 2019 can vote at the caucus meeting for the delegates to the state convention. You can vote for yourself. All you Trump people can vote for one another at that caucus meeting. Anybody else who shows up, only you who are precinct committeemen can actually vote. The ones who show up and say, I want to be a delegate, if they're not a precinct committeeman, they can't vote for themselves or anybody else. They're just a candidate. You can be a voter, an owner of the party. That was the hook. And then after 2019 ended, then the hook was, hey, you missed the boat on that, but you can still run and get elected in 2020 and show Donald Trump what a great Donald Trump supporter you are by becoming an elected PC. And they got it done. Over in Graham County, they had their 100% strength ever since I became a PC. And I asked the chairman over there, how do you do it? And he goes, well, I have a construction company, a small construction company. Now, this is a rural county. There's only 93 precinct committeemen in that county. Cochise County had 284 slots. Pima County had 1,593 slots. Maricopa County has 7,467 slots. So that gives you a differential there in size and scope. But in Graham County, he always had all of his slots filled. And the way I asked him, how did you do it? And he goes, I'm a businessman. I know the other Republican businessmen in my county. I talk to them. I get them to help me fill out the slots. And then constantly. And I said, get your employees to become precinct committeemen, get your friends, get your relatives, get your church members, become precinct committeemen. And he always had all 93 filled. And if somebody dropped out for whatever reason, passed away, or they moved out of their precinct, he had somebody waiting in the wings to come in and fill it on a volunteer basis. Beautiful system. We can do this in every county in the country. And we have to do it, or we're going to lose the republic. I guarantee it.
Okay. A few things while Dan was talking, and then we're going to go to comments. We had a local face-to-face meeting in Cincinnati, Ohio, Thursday night. Okay. We had it at a place called The Farm, which serves a buffet. And some people ate, and about 15 of us met on how we're going to proceed. Now, and that means, how are we going to fill all of the neighborhood precinct slots in the Republican Party? About 300 out of 1,100 have been identified who came to wave signs at after the election, say Stop the Steal or Trump type rally. And so we strategized on that, and we're going to put on Network America a private page for our county where we just keep track of how many more we got to go. People like to see progress. They like to see how far do we got to go. My efforts are adding up. So more important than this call, which is just to facilitate, we're not starting any new group. We weren't in 2007. We're just trying to connect the leaders and the organizations that already exist to do this. And that more important than a national call, although we can have many. We're not trying to monopolize anything at Network America, trying to connect people. It would be a call in each state and in each county. Like if right now 3,000 Zoom calls were going in 3,000 counties about, we're going to organize and we'll meet in person, because in person's better than even Zoom, we'll meet in person a few times a year to make this happen. That would be more important. I wanted to say something, Dan, thank you for mentioning Network America. If you like other platforms, we'll put it on Network America. You can put it on Network America. We do not stop people from talking to each other. Now, you can't come on and threaten somebody with violence, and we're not going to let somebody come on and maybe cuss more than they talk. But the point is that you can talk to everybody. That's what I objected to all the groups. It's too late. Even I'm a great admirer of Ron Paul's in many ways, but his organization, when he turned over to other people, they would not let the people talk to each other. On Network America, you can talk to each other, bring other people in. There's no gatekeeper of who can talk to each other, who can organize with each other. Okay. And we've got a leaders page now for people that are willing to mentor and teach people how to run for precinct it's not a big list yet. But we'll list anybody. They're not part of Network America. They're there as using it as a platform. We don't care if you use another place. We'll publicize the other place. You understand? So, and that brings me to three other quick things. Then we're going to open it for comments. One is, what people convinced me since we started this call the victories. After hearing Dan on War Room, a guy named Daniel Wiley in Douglas County, Georgia, small county, 25 precincts, he just got some advice from somebody out west, and he got his friends together and puts a video up on asking for conservatives to come forth. He went into the meeting, and because the old guard was so fat and happy, he took over the whole county like 2 months, I guess it's a month and a half or 2 months ago. He was a guest a few weeks ago, took over the whole county. That was a small one, but that's great. Another guest we had on a few weeks ago, the week after that, was Clyde Davis of North Carolina, and he was talking this up after seeing Dan on War Room, and a group of Black conservatives took over a county near the one of the big cities, took over the whole county. And there's plenty of black conservatives or black constitutionalists coming of age, you might say. The one lady, Candace, I can't remember her name right now, but somebody will probably remember her name.
Candace Owen.
Who is it? Thank
Candace
you.
Owen.
Candace Owens, and Larry Elder, and so on and so forth. And so these are great stories. These are victories we just achieved. We beat the Republican Party in 1990 in Cincinnati and Hamilton County a lifetime ago on a technicality because they were so fat and happy, but then nobody was watching and the court stole it from us on the most ridiculous decision you ever saw, but we couldn't do anything about it at the time. Didn't have enough money and so forth. Back to that, by the way, when we see the other side knows this is where the power is. They know that. Our side does not. We used to say our side is like drunken fifth graders who don't even get this when we explain it to them way back in 1990. But we're fighting the Marines. They know the other side is the Marines. They're coming at us with semi-automatic weapons, figuratively, because they know this is where the power is. And the Republican National Committee in 1990 sent 3 full-time paid organizers in from the national level to help the local Republican establishment try to defeat us in that last month. And they actually had more people, but they goofed on a technicality. So there's all kinds of interesting stories. Somebody, Dan, and I think it was Lesha from Texas, convinced me since this call, because I'm one to go off on all kinds of tirades, okay? But they convinced me of this. And Lesha said, we don't, after Dan has told you, we don't need to convince people anything's wrong right now. I'll just get them in and run for precinct. And that's true. In 2015, I would say, gee, we got to worry about the vote count, got to worry. People don't need to be convinced anything's wrong. They know something's not right up top of our country, or at least there's some forces up there that aren't right. So they're ready to go. All we got to do is show them what to do. And I've had people say, well, what's this call all about? What you can do if you haven't done it, you got to contact your board of election, give them your address, or look online and find out what precinct you're in. I'm in precinct Green Y, Green Township, Precinct Y in Hamilton County, Ohio, and you're in one. So you got to find that out, and then you find out how to run. Now on Network America, we got some, and Dan put together a lot of them, and a guy named Richard in California put together some, but we're trying to get every state clearly explained how you run in your precinct. And I'll tell you, the one state in your state, we're having trouble finding what California's rules are. They're being very obstructive and really, I think, operating somewhat on the verge of illegal by not telling people how to get involved. So on that point of, I'm not going to work with him because he's not for the convention of states. He's not for, he doesn't like Trump is the best leader of the party. Here's what I say to everybody now. If you don't want forced vaccinations for your kids and grandkids, if you don't want the guns to be taken away, if you're for the Second Amendment, you belong with us. You belong with people across the country who have like mine on this meeting. And then after we take power, we can argue about all the other things. But if you're for basically Bill of Rights and Constitution, you belong with us, even if you have strong disagreements with people. I tell this story, people got to put up with a story every week that come on. The old mayor, Ed Koch, of a few decades ago, who was a liberal lefty, New York City mayor, he said this once, and I always remembered it. Somebody said, well, this group doesn't agree with you on this. And he said, look, if you agree with me on 80% of the issues, vote for me. If you agree with me on 100% of the issues, you need a psychiatrist. In other words, nobody agrees with everybody on everything. Finally, and then we're going to put it over to questions and the comments and so forth. You got to put up with one or two of these every call from me. Some of you have heard it before. I was listening to a country song a while ago called Cowboys and Angels. And the singer, whose name escapes me, part of the song is, don't know why her path crossed mine, accident or grand design. Or maybe God just kind of likes cowboys and angels. Now, to all you cowboys and angels on this call, and I see some angels on this call, the women are coming out like they're going to defend their baby cub because they realize there's danger. To all you cowboys and angels on this call and across the country, this is a glorious pursuit we're in. It's standing up for liberty at a time when we need people to stand up for liberty. And we're like the hobbits in Lord of the Rings, and hobbits that looked hopeless but they kept moving. So no matter how bad it looks or how good it looks, we're the hobbits and we must keep moving. And last thing I'll say is Father Gruner was a priest friend of mine. I was working for him in 1994. Clinton was in. We were around the dinner table, 5 or 7 of us, and this is going bad. Clinton was in. This is going bad. We're talking. Father Gruner finally said, look, he said, if we pray as hard as we can and we work as hard as we can, then God will do the rest. And I believe that. And I hope you will believe that too. Who has a comment for Dan, a question or just anything, a criticism of the way we're doing the call, or any comment about what's going on in your life?
Andy Mensa was first. I'm sorry. Like you should have, everybody, you should put as one or raise up your hand if you want to speak. Raise up not your physical hand. I would rather you to raise up your digital hand. But if you don't know how to do that, put a 1. But Sandy
in the chat, you're talking about putting it in the chat.
Yes.
Okay. And you get on the chat by clicking chat down there.
Yes.
Okay.
And so Sandy's next.
Go ahead, Sandy. You might have to unmute yourself if you put hover your mouse over. Hello. Okay. Who's Q? So you might have on the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a
Sandy is gone. I don't know how it happened.
Okay.
We just wait for her. If maybe she got accidentally
Bumped
disconnected or something. Okay. Let's get to the next person in line. I saw Ed from Michigan wanted to talk. And then after that, definitely Barbie wanted to talk. I saw your hand, Barbie. Yes. So Ed from Michigan, you're next.
Yes, Dan, I got a hold of Marion that you gave me as a reference. I've got to call her tomorrow. The questions I asked how to get signed up to be precinct delegate, that's Michigan's one, said that she says, I'd rather talk to you about exactly how to do it. So I'll get that for Jim, how someone in Michigan get involved there. And other than that, I'm just going to work on the, I know someone in my precinct next door to me and all around town, and I'm going to see about the county, and I'm going to try to work the groups like NRA, Right to Life, or the gun owners and stuff, so that's about all I can tell you right now. Next week, I'm not going to be here, so I'll get back with you in June on that.
Okay.
Well, it shouldn't be that hard to find out how to run for precinct. Go to the Board of Elections again and ask them what the rules are in the state. Dan, go ahead, Dan.
That was Dan's special contact, and she says she'd rather tell me.
All right. Okay.
To write it out. So I'm gonna get a hold of her, and then I'll get the rules for Michigan for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that in Michigan, to be appointed, you have to be appointed by the county chair. And I think what Marion wants to caution you on is if you don't know who your county chair is or the other officers, and if you go in there and rah, 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 sis, boom, bah, I'm a Trump supporter, they might not like you, and they don't have to appoint you to a vacancy.
Right.
What I tell people to do is simply say this. When they ask, why do you want to become a volunteer precinct committeeman and fill a vacancy? I tell people, tell them this. I'm a good Republican. I always vote Republican.
Mm-hmm.
If it's, be truthful. If
Right.
that's not the, don't say, I saw the light. I want to be a Republican. I've read the 2-party platforms. Obviously, one's for communism and one isn't. One's for Americanism, the Republican Party platform. So I want to cause more people to become affiliated with the Republican Party, and I want to help elect greater numbers of Republicans to office at every level of government. If you say that, how in the world could they turn you away as well?
Exactly.
Only somebody acting in bad faith would turn you away.
Right. Yeah, well, that's why I want to tell people too that if I get some more people to get into it, I want to tell them too. There's 30 slots that go to the national convention and nominate the person from Michigan there. So I'm just going to go for the numbers. You know, if someone else in my thing gets nominated as one of the 30, and I'm better off for that anyway.
Okay,
Right.
Ed, thank you. Thank you. Barbie, is Barbie next queue?
Yes,
Hi.
I wanted to say hello to Daniel. Today I signed up on Network America
Oh, good,
to be
good.
your Arkansas contact.
Wonderful.
I have been doing that, and Daniel has sent me 5 or 6 names, and I just wanted to let him know that so far 2 of them have joined their county's Republican committees.
Good.
My husband and I have been active in our county for 12 years since I learned PC information from Daniel.
Okay.
I'm on the membership committee for our county committee, which means I get to help vet the people who walk in and are asking for appointment, you know, in this non-election time, because 8 years ago, we had a group of about 110 who showed up at the county courthouse 15 minutes before filing was over, and they were a group of liberals, and they tried to take over our committee. We are very conservative here in Arkansas. So because of being in the committee, the state rules on receiving membership was changed at that time. And so I'm just very thankful that I learned from Daniel how conservatives can become the owners of this committee. So I just wanted to say, hey, reach out, find your conservatives, bring them in, get them in the committee, and make a difference. Yes, and it's time to do this. It's that lull before. We're still waiting for redistricting. We don't know who our candidates are going to be. They're all milling around waiting to know where to land. So we need to be ready to go. But
Barbie,
I just say thank you.
Yeah, if you can, Barbie, would you email us at info@networkamerica.org so I can, you did?
Yes, sir, today.
Okay, I need to
Just-
contact,
Just before
Good.
the meeting started.
I just want to contact you to make sure we got you in the right place so that people in Arkansas can find you easily. We do have that state leader, county leader page now. Nikki Nelson probably put in $100,000 of volunteer work or more to build this 5 years ago and since. And again, another reason that we have a server, and we have a server in two other servers in 2 countries. So unless they start knocking servers down, we're going to stay up. And that's one reason we did Network America. And again, we're glad to give publicity to other platforms where people can come and say, hey, we're talking on Gab every whatever, no big deal. Let's just get together and talk to each other and cooperate. Okay. Thank you,
Well,
Barbara.
I have to go, but thank you for this. I have connecting those 5 or 6 people that I'm linking up in Arkansas, giving them the Sunday night meeting time. So
Great.
hopefully one of these weeks they'll show up.
Oh, that's fine.
Thank
And
you
that's
so
what it's
much.
for, because we know everybody can't show up every week and they don't need to. But if they're new and they want to get a little encouragement see, people come here not only to learn the facts, they want to know, is this real?
Yeah.
Will this work? And yes, it will, but we need the numbers. And even in the worst county of rhinos, if we had the numbers, we could prevail.
Barbie needs to go. Barbie, did you give us your contact information?
Yes, I sent the email to Network America, and then I joined the state, and I left my email address there.
Go ahead, Nikki.
So you also gave your phone number, because I just wanted, when you do your profile, I want you to put that your name and then a comma and then the abbreviation for your state, and then put state leader. So when people go into your group, your state group, they look at members and they'll tell you're the leader.
Okay.
Does that make sense? We can do that on another call.
Yeah. Well,
as long as I've got your
I assume I'll get an email back from you.
Okay, very good.
That's Barbie. Thank you so much. If we had 250,000 Barbies, we would be on the verge of victory. That's
Well, I wish Arkansas had about 500 more.
well,
We're working on it.
God willing, we'll get there. That was Nikki Nelson, everybody who built
Thanks,
the system.
Daniel. Bless you.
Nikki.
Bye-bye.
Yes, good night.
Okay.
Next in line is Pro to Cal. I don't know his real name, but this is his computer name. I mean,
Hi.
Hey y'all, yeah, it's protocol.
Hey, protocol. Good.
Oh,
How you
bro.
doing? How you doing? Yeah,
Good.
yeah. It's a play on words, and I'm sure I'll have plenty of time in the future to tell y'all about it. But I'm a new precinct chairman here in Chatham County. Thank you, Mr. Schultz, for shooting out with the precinct project. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the craziness that's going on down here in Chatham County, District 1 in Georgia. I just want to drop this quick question off, and this is kind of a problem that we've run into with the rhinos here. They're not necessarily following the rules that are actually supposed to govern the county party. And the issue that we ran into was with the Robert Rules of Order, nomination of the floor, challenges to the chair, things that are actually within Robert's Rules of Order, to where the rhinos are skirt tailing, ending meetings, realizing, oh crap, these new people actually know the rules. What are we going to do? So now that we're moving up to fulfill the vacant PC chairs and to fill the committee chairs, and even challenging them on the executive seats, what would you do as far as offering us some type of guide to getting around these rhinos who are holding on to dear power, basically throwing the rules out the window as they go along?
Let me comment real quick. Then Dan, I'm sure maybe somebody else has a comment. This is the other side of the story. We told about Daniel Wiley and people like him that go in and they take over right away, or become leaders of or servants, as Dan says, of that party, head of the party. But the other side is massive breaking of the rules. And you got to try to have somebody there that knows the Robert's Rules of Order and that. But also, I say we need to start talking to the sheriff and asking him to send someone to enforce that what happens is right and is fair to everybody, and try to get somebody in authority in the county, because this is the other side of the story. And I don't know the total answer to it, except you try to get somewhere, especially when there's a vote, somebody there who is in somewhat of an authority who will enforce fairness at those meetings. Dan, did you have any comment on that?
Yeah, the sheriff has no jurisdiction over our private organization called the Republican Party, period. We just had a court case here that reaffirmed that here in Arizona. These foolish people sued, went into state court, and because Kelly Ward didn't allow a special meeting to take place, and the court went right through all of it and said, I don't have any jurisdiction over this. This is an internal matter of a political party. I don't have any jurisdiction over you people. There's no constitutional right at stake. You don't have a constitutional right to be a member of a party. There's no statutory right to be a member of a party. You have a statutory right, if you use the primary election process, to run. That's it. But nobody's claiming they didn't have a right to run. So why do you think I have jurisdiction over this matter? I don't. Besides, on the basis of the political question doctrine alone, courts are not supposed to interfere with private political organization of private people. We're supposed to stay out of that. So you can't go run to the sheriff or anybody else, period.
Dan, when you're done, I want to tell what happened in Ohio in the courts. Go ahead.
The only thing that you can do is try to outnumber the bad people. Okay, so I'll give you a concrete example of that. Here in Arizona, at that meeting we had in January with Kelly Ward, our chairperson, there were 2 items on our ballot that were improperly on our ballot. They were 2 proposed amendments to the bylaws. It was clear, crystal clear, that the bylaws state, in order to vote on, have the body vote on a bylaw amendment, you have to have on the ballot and in the call letter the reasons given for the proposed change. The person who drafted it failed to do that. The committee, the bylaws committee, failed to do that as well. And therefore, I just went to the podium, point of order. There's two, I even went to them before it and said, to save time, would you please take these two off the ballot? Kelly Ward decided that they're going to be voted on anyways. So I went to the microphone, point of order. I'd like the parliamentarian to rule whether, or who was the parliamentarian. Her sidekick, Tyler Boyer, and actually he wasn't, they said some attorney was the parliamentarian. He wasn't even in the room. And they just did it anyways. So what's the remedy when you have a chairman who isn't following the bylaws like they should? There's only one remedy: removal of the chairman by majority vote, or however it's done with your bylaws. Well, at that meeting, to me, it didn't make it didn't, I didn't feel the need to try to remove her because we were going to vote on whether or not she got elected eventually anyways. And I just wanted to see how that was going to play out. And if I would have made a motion to have her removed, probably would have failed. So I didn't make that motion. But here's the thing. At that meeting, again, like I said, after the 2020 primary here in Arizona, only 36% of our precinct committeeman slots got filled. That means that only 36% of our state committeeman positions got filled, because there's one state committeeman for every 3 elected precinct committeemen. It's a direct correlation ratio. So we only had the people there in 1/3 of the strength that it could have been. Now, what if all of those other precinct committeeman slots, the 64% that didn't get filled, had been filled by conservative Republicans? We would have had an overwhelming number of good, decent conservatives as state committeemen as well. And Kelly Ward wouldn't have gotten away with any of that. And frankly, she probably wouldn't gotten elected to begin with in 2019. We would have elected the other conservative who was running, who was much better, but nobody knew who he was and he didn't mount much of a campaign. It's all about numbers. So what you've got to do there in Cheatham County is you've got to continue recruiting, and hope that you educate enough of your precinct committeemen about what is in the bylaws and how the bylaws are being violated. Like I've said many times, I used to say when I would train people about what, how, and why to become a precinct committeeman, I'd say, and then once you become a precinct committeeman, you've also got to read and study the bylaws. Now I say you've got to read and study the bylaws, and then you've got to read and study the bylaws, and then you've got to read and study the bylaws. You've got to read and study these things so you know what the rules of the road are. And if you're governed by statutes, you need to know what those statutes say too. Okay, the statutes, there's not going to be much in the statutes, except in Florida, where there's lots of statutes, as I found out. Florida's really got a complicated system. And then, yes, you've got to get somebody, at least one person in your each committee, who will volunteer to become an adept parliamentarian. We have one here in Maricopa County. His name's Joe Neglia. He's an instructor at a community college, a professor, and he took it upon himself. He goes, because he saw how they ran roughshod over Robert's rules at our county meeting and our state meeting. And once he saw that, he said, you know what, I'm going to put a stop to this. Now he's a certified parliamentarian and he can go toe to toe with them. He wasn't at the meeting that I was at in January because he thought he had COVID and he didn't want to go and infect everybody. He didn't have COVID, but I don't think, but he thought he did. Anyways, yeah. It's all about numbers and it's all about knowledge. And this isn't rocket science. None of this is. You know, they used to teach Robert's Rules of Order in 7th grade.
They did. That's right.
Public schools. My dad, I know, knew Robert's rules, and he went to school in a one-room school, a one-room, country school up until 8th grade. He didn't leave that one-room schoolhouse until he went to town to go to 8 miles away to go to high school. Okay. but I know he learned Robert's rules. They taught it then. They don't. I learned basic American civics, but there was no instruction in Robert's Rules of Order when I went through school in the 60s. Now, my dad was in junior high, in the one room schoolhouse up through 8th grade in the 30s. He graduated from high school in 1944. They taught the kids Robert's Rules. But they don't teach it anymore. So you got to find one person who's passionate about it and learn it. And there's all sorts of videos on YouTube about the basics of Robert's Rules. Learn the basics. If you learn the basics, if you read and study the bylaws, you'll be in good shape.
Now, Dan, let me tell you what happened in Ohio, because I don't agree with. Here's the thing: if it's a knitting club or a baseball club, and they don't have any privileges from the state, then I think the judges can bail out on every question. When the state gives the Republican Party and the Democratic Party super privileges, like you only need 50 signatures to run for Congress in a primary, in the Republican and Democratic Party, you need 1,500 as an independent, which is about $5,000 or in incredible amounts of ours. When they're giving these parties privileges, and when those parties control everything counting in the country, I don't agree that these judges can bail out, and they don't always. In Ohio a while back, the party was realizing that they're going to lose control of a ward within the county. There's 26 wards, I think.
You're comparing Jim, just stop right there. You're comparing apples to oranges.
No, let me finish.
I'm talking about a party meeting.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Elections for public office. Two totally different.
No, Dan, I'm talking about a party meeting, because protocol's talking about they're cutting the meeting short. They're not holding the meeting. Like this just happened to Linwood. So they did this in a ward, and they only notified the precinct executives that they recruited. They didn't recognize the precinct executives that we recruited. My dad took it to court, and the judge said no. When you hold a party meeting, you've got to notify all the elected officials, and they made them do that meeting over. So now let me address the sheriff or somebody at these meetings, a police chief or something. Yes, they don't technically have any power over the party, but if you say, hey, 2 years ago, they cheated us. They threw us off the stage. They physically took over things. We want you to come to keep the peace, because this meeting, we're not going to let them do that to us. We're going to fight if we have to fight with our fists to enforce our victory. So we want you to come and keep the peace, film it. So I think what protocol is saying I've run into, and we cannot just say, well, it's just a party, or they'll keep cheating in many of these counties for the rest of our lives. So I think a lot of these judges step out of their they make an excuse to not enforce it. So if the state gives the party privileges, then the state has an interest that they give the citizens equal access to participate. And if we lose in court, we make it notorious so that more people get mad and get involved, and we get the numbers. But some of these counties plan to cheat for a long time, and if we let them get away with it. So go ahead.
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Who's next, Q?
Okay, Kathy Jorgensen is next.
Hi, and Dan, I've been emailing with you a little bit today and look forward to learning more from you. But my primary question is that the LD that I'm in, I applied for a PC position back in early April, and the chairman is a rhino, and she's making it really difficult for people to get in. But also, we're not having meetings. We can't find any information about meetings being held. I've heard that there have been some Zoom meetings, but we can't get information. So a lot of people in my neighborhood are talking about, can we just get together and have our own meeting? And of course, we can do that without any formal structure. But what can we do? We just want to be able to at least attend the meeting, even if we can't get a PC position.
Well, are you an LD 28?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're dealing with old Kathy.
Yep.
So ignore her. Have your own meetings. Get all the conservative precinct committeemen in LD 28 and have your own meeting at the precinct level and then at the LD level. Elect conservatives in every precinct to precinct captain positions, whether it's official or informal or not, it doesn't make any difference. And then meet separately and that's what we need to do. See, is we need to within the Republican Party, as we grow our ranks, we need to be communicating with one another. And the problem is the party itself will never give us communication software. It exists. It's called Our Votes, but it's Our Votes is expensive, and they'll never get it for us. So what are we doing? Let's use Network America. I was on this one site called the name of the platform was bitrix24.com. Somebody set it up. Well, the clown that was running it now kicked me off.
We promise we won't do that, Dan. We won't do that.
Because he goes by a pseudonym, Zachary Davis. I don't know who Zachary Davis is, and he won't tell anybody who he is. Why should I have a conversation with somebody who won't identify himself? So I ignored Dan, how do you feel we should be running this in the future? Blah, blah, why would I talk to somebody if I don't even know who the hell you are? Okay.
Right.
So I got kicked off of that. But that's okay. There was only 110 people on it, and now I think there's less than 50. So,
okay.
But regardless, what we've got to do is we've got to, and I'm working on creating another system. And like I said, there's Cloud Hub, there's Gab, there's MeWe. Don't use Facebook. Get off of Twitter. Don't use Instagram. Don't use any of those big tech companies. I used to be on Twitter a lot. I rarely go on Twitter anymore. And when I do, it's just to push out the precinct committeeman strategy. Get off of Twitter. I never go on Facebook anymore. And I will never use Messenger. Facebook reads everything that you put on Facebook. Get off of it. Okay. Use Network America instead. Or maybe when Frank speech gets its act together, maybe when Trump's world or whatever it's going to be called gets its act together, you need to in LD28 get every caucus. It's called a caucus, an informal group within the group. Have a conservative caucus, and you could use Network America as your platform. Okay. People are using Telegram. People are using Signal, same thing. But, I've tried to figure out how those groups work on those platforms and trying to do it on my phone. I think, don't we have that ACL group on Telegram? I think you were posting on it. It's just, to me, it's just like a morass when I go on there. I don't know how to use it. I think Network America is a lot easier to use. But you got to be in front of a computer to do it. So yeah, just keep organizing and uniting and recruiting. And then when you submit an application, don't send it to Kathy, send it to Mickey Nyland, the chair, CC Kathy, and CC me, because Mickey knows that I'm watching her too.
Okay. Kathy, I want to say something. I'm sorry, were you saying something, Dan? Kathy?
By statute in Arizona, there's only one person who can approve an appointment to a vacancy, and that's the county chairman. Legislative district chairs, they're not even statutory. They're permissive. There's no statutory right to be a legislative district chairman, and legislative district chairmen have zero power over the appointment process. None.
Okay. Nikki Nelson, isn't it true that people can use Network America from their phone as well as sitting in front of a computer?
Yeah, they just need to go to join conference call tab and it'll give you instructions on how to join on your computer or phone.
Actually, and Nikki's got so much built into this. I think of the Apple IIc guy. That was the computer before little Macs came in back in the early 90s. And the guy that nobody uses it anymore, but the guy said, no one will ever know how much I built into the Apple IIc. They'll never know how to use it, all the features. So Network America is, the features are there, and we're going to make it even easier for people to figure out how to use all those features as we get time to put brain power into every page. Dan, we promise we will not kick you off of Network America. And I want to say to Kathy Jorgensen, let me go with what really may happen in some counties that Dan was saying, that the judges say, we have nothing to do with internal party matters, which if they give them privilege, I don't agree with. But let's say, Kathy and everybody else, that they say that we're not going to get involved. We got to still stand up for what's right, be pure of heart. And as things get worse, if they continue to get worse, there's some people in power who are going to someday say, I didn't sign up to be loyal to the rhinos or the party. I didn't sign up to betray my family and betray my country. So when that starts to hit these people that are in power in party leadership or Congress or sheriff or whatever, the more of us that are doing what they know is right in their heart, the more of us that are standing up, at some point, those people in power are going to come over to our side and help us prevail. Because most people, 99%, do not plan to betray their family and their country, but they've been kind of being coaxed along, well, your party loyalty and all that stuff. So even if the judges will never get involved, even if you're being abused, protocol and everybody else, stand up, do what's right with as many numbers as possible, like Dan's saying, and some of those people will start coming our way as things get worse. Who's next, Q?
We have a group that we're activating people. We're adding people just so quickly, and we've recruited about 70 PCs so far, just 16 on Friday. So,
what county? Do you mind me asking what county you're in?
Maricopa.
Which is in Arizona. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Arizona.
We have Dan listed. If you don't mind being a mentor for Arizona, would love to list you on the Arizona mentors or leaders, because as we get going, the more the merrier on mentoring other people on how to do this. So you don't have to do that, but I'm just saying, you would be.
I have a lot to learn myself, but any way I can help, I'm happy to.
Don't we all have a lot to learn? Okay, thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next, Q?
Unfortunately, the gentleman is gone. His name was Steve, but I don't see him here.
Okay.
I don't see anybody else.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. We've gone about an hour. Let me see what we've gone. I got to have my glasses on here. We have gone about an hour and a half, and that's usually about, sometimes we'll go 2 hours. We don't want to shut off any conversation. Nikki, did you have anything you wanted to say about anything, about the system or anything, or about everybody here?
No, I've added Dan's story on General Flynn to our blog, and Jim and I had added a few stories. Most of them are featuring Dan Schultz.
Well, that's what the news is. The news is these stories of coming out of the Bannon show.
Do you have links?
Yeah.
You have the link to it, to that video?
Yeah, I have a link to our blog with all the stories, and we want to have exciting stories or strategy stories or what's going on. So you can do that on the system yourself. You can make your own blog in the Facebook-like system, our communication system, or like here, or send it to info@networkamerica.org, our email, and we'll put them up on our website so we can keep encouraging people. Strategy stories would be really good too.
Great.
And even reverses, if you run into something, everybody shares, so everybody across the country realizes what the options are, what they may be facing. Okay.
I'm going to steal it, and I'm going to repost that on our Telegram network.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Dr. Q again running the call, and Dr. Q is a patriot, an American citizen now. I got to tell everybody that hasn't been on before that he, in Iran in the 1990s, was trying to advocate for freedom of assembly and freedom of speech after the great Persian or Iranian leader Cyrus, who our founding fathers were inspired by. So he was poisoned. They came to his bedside and said, "You're going to die. We poisoned you." Somehow he made it through, came to America, became a citizen in 2006. And I said on a number of the calls, I wish 10% of the Americans I knew had the love of our Constitution and Bill of Rights as Dr. Q, his real name is Q Marchiani's, has. So thank you again, Dr. Q, for running the call. Nikki, thank you for all your work. Dan, thank you for continuing on, on with what you're doing, and we're going to keep keeping on the best we can here. And I guess what we'll do, Q, is formally end the call. Thank you, everyone.
Wait.
Yeah.
Are you looking at your screen, babe? Can you
No,
see?
no. What should I look at?
Dan wants to say something before you go. That's
Oh,
Finish.
fine. No, I don't want to cut conversation off. Even after we end the recording, everyone who wants to can stay and talk. But Dan, yes, please go ahead.
Just two things. I put into the chat the information about what General Flynn said in that interview. The third thing he talked about was also get involved, in droves in working the election process in 2022, so that there's a Republican and a conservative in every position that needs to be filled to observe the elections as observers, which didn't happen here in Arizona. And then the other thing I put in the chat is the excerpts from that court case I mentioned that clearly states that the judge clearly saw that he had no jurisdiction over this purely private internal matter that had nothing to do with the elections of people to public office. Totally different can of worms, and the courts don't have any jurisdiction, nor should we ever allow them and accept their jurisdiction over our purely private spats inside our party, which is not government. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else got anything before we close up?
Yeah, I just wanted to, is it over the top to, have militia people there?
Not in my book.
We've got.
You're talking about at party meetings who come to observe?
No, yeah, that come to observe and maybe intimidate to do the right thing. We've got really good militia. Well, we have a really good one, and I think it's Snowflake. Is it Snowflake that has that? No, it's Sholo. I'm sorry. That's where the Freedom Fest was. They have a great militia there. I mean, they're all older gentlemen, former military. They dress in little uniforms. They're fabulous.
The best thing is if they ran for precinct and were, there is Dr. Edwin Vieira, who's a constitutional lawyer, won 2 out of 3 cases before the Supreme Court. He wrote 8 essays on News with Views, and he has 2 ebooks on what did the founding fathers mean by the constitutional militia, the well-regulated militia. And when you read his stuff, it's the end of the story. But I remember some lefty years ago was reported in one of the patriotic newspapers in Kansas, I think, said, what we have to fear is a political movement tied to a militia movement. Now, they didn't mean a militia of guys walking through the woods and firing, which I'm not against people doing that to practice, but my point is, and I'm not a gun guy really, I'm just saying that's what our founding fathers built in. So he meant a political movement like the precinct movement tied with the constitutional militia, which the founding fathers set up and kind of fell into disuse in favor of the National Guard about 1907. So yeah, we gotta let the other side know we're serious, because they're not planning to give up power easily, and especially in these big counties. But again, let's keep on keeping on with a pure heart and standing up for what's right. And more people in the establishment, if things keep getting worse, will come over to our side and help us prevail.
Dan, what do you think about militia being at these meetings if they're starting to get really, totally doing corrupt things like in front of everybody? What do you think about that?
Well, we're all, every able-bodied man 18 to 45 is automatically enrolled in the unorganized militia in the country, whether you know that or not. Okay?
It is true. It is true. Yeah.
Secondly, at our meetings, almost always it's held in some venue where firearms are allowed. And I carry concealed all the time because we have constitutional carry here in Arizona, as you know. So third, it's up to the county chairman. And when and Jim hit the nail on the head, are these people who are militiamen, are they precinct committeemen? If they're not, why aren't they?
Well, maybe that's one of the places we need to start recruiting is, certainly for well-organized militia that are like, they look like Boy Scouts. I mean, not
Yeah.
that I'm saying they all have to look like Boy Scouts, but there's a lot of infiltrators in the militia movement, so you got to be careful.
Hey, I see Mama Nine on here. Thanks for coming on again, Mom of Nine. And I see.
Hang on a second. Okay, this is a book you want to get. Okay.
I just got your book, Dan. I'm still reading it.
Well, this one's short too, but it's not as short as mine. But it's written by a retired general. He's a West Pointer like I am, John Galvin. He was the highest ranking general at one point in the military. He wrote this book, The Minutemen, The First Fight, Myths and Realities of the American Revolution. And when you read this book, you're going to learn that many of the militia commanders during the Revolutionary War and the years leading up to it were pastors. And they would require every able-bodied man periodically, like maybe once a month, they'd essentially have a muster, and they were required to bring to the church their firearm and their ammo and their gunpowder. And then after the service, they would have a muster. So there's nothing wrong, obviously, with firearms. Now think of it. The Bill of Rights is a declaration of our rights. It's a series of shall nots against the government. We have, all these rights are God-given that they're in the Bill of Rights. That the Bill of Rights simply declares and protects and says the Constitution protects these rights. The Bill of Rights is part of the Constitution. Okay. Every other right you carry with you. Your right of free speech, wherever you go, you have your right of free speech. Okay. Your right to assemble. You can assemble anywhere. Okay. Every other right in the Bill of Rights, you can take it, it's with you. It's you carry it with you. Including the courts are finally now beginning to recognize your right to keep and bear arms. That right to keep and bear arms should go with you wherever you go, because it's there to protect your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness. And so there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to tie our political activity to the exercise of all of our rights, including the right to keep and bear arms. So, but it's really up how the meetings are conducted, the committee meetings are conducted. It's up to the county, the committee chair. And if the committee chair says, I don't want anybody to be carrying a firearm during our meeting, that's the chair's prerogative. But then again, like I said before, that chair is not our leader. That chair is the servant of the precinct committeeman who elected them, because in the power chart, the precinct committeemen are up here, they're on top, and down below them are all the servants that they elect within the party, including the RNC members. The party always has the pyramid like this. Up here at the top, at the apex, is the RNC, and then the state. That's upside down. It's really this way. Up on top is the people who elect everybody else. The most important, most powerful people in our party are the precinct committeemen. If there's no precinct committeemen, there's no party.
Yeah, thanks for holding up the Minutemen book, because it reminds me our guest next week is John Putnam, who I know you know, Dan, and Nikki we've talked to. Is it Arkansas? Is he in Arkansas?
No, I believe he is in
Missouri.
Missouri. Yep.
Okay, so John Putnam, whose great ancestor, Israel Putnam, was the leader of the United States forces at the Battle of Bunker Hill. So he has quite an illustrious ancestor, and he's going to come on and be the guest next week. I'm glad you held that up, so I remembered to promote that. And he's been involved in this for decades, the precinct thing and so forth, at least much of the past decade. So he'll be on as the guest next week. By the way, I'm noticing, I guess Q muted everybody, so maybe somebody is trying to speak up and we can't hear them. So if anybody has been trying to speak up and we can't hear you, you hover your mouse over the bottom of your Zoom screen, and on the left-hand side, if you got an arrow through your microphone, you're muted. So you click on that microphone so that you can talk. So if anybody's been trying to talk and saying, why can't they hear me? It's because your microphone's been muted. So if anybody wants to unmute your, are you going to go, Dan?
Dan wants to talk.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say one more thing when you're done, Jim.
No, I was
Somebody else
asking,
wants to talk.
no, I was just wanting to ask if anybody is trying to talk, but they're muted, how they could unmute their microphone with their mouse in the lower left hand of their Zoom screen. But no, you go ahead, Dan. Go ahead with now, and then someone else can then talk if they want.
Okay. Well, there's two other books that I want to promote that I, again, wish everybody would read. This one is, well, the Minutemen is, and I will put in the chat as soon as I'm done talking, the actual titles as well. But this one's called Paul Revere's Ride by David Hackett Fisher. And it's very similar to the Minutemen book. It talks all about the militias, okay, at the time. And then this is a really good one. It's you can get it on Amazon or other book titles. It's been reprinted, but this is the first one I bought, and I bought one of these for each of my kids. It's Your American Yardstick by, it says, and the subtitle is 12 Basic American Principles, and the author is Hamilton Hebert Long. He was a Notre Dame law school grad. And one of the interesting things in it is this. There's a speech by Franklin Delano Roosevelt when he was governor of New York to a group. He was about to, run for the presidency. You read that, and he sounds like Donald Trump. He sounds like this fantastic free market advocate, super strong on individual liberty and everything. And then he gets elected and he does like a 180 because of the Depression and becomes this fantastic socialist. It's really incredible. And there's lots of other good stuff in there, but it really talks about the 12 basic American principles that govern how we are to be organized for liberty here in this country. So like I said, I've got a note I'm going to look for here on Outlook. I'm going to copy and paste it. It's got the titles of those books. And a couple others too that are very good.
By the way, people, we can all, if you click on the chat and hit Control All and then Control C, you can move the whole chat into a Word document. Also, on those three dots at the right hand bottom of the screen, there's three dots that says, hover over it, says more. One of them is Save Chat. Now, what happens when you save chat? Maybe Q can tell us. I have no idea, but I've saved these chats in like the books that Dan is mentioning. If he gets them in here, and I then put them in a Word document marked Chat Network America 523 2021. Okay. So, did anybody else before we formally close the call want to say anything at all on any front? Okay.
I just want to say thanks for all your work, Jim, on Precinct and sticking with it for decades, and also to Dan and Dr. Q for running the call and everybody for being here.
Okay, and we don't, yeah, everybody for being here, and you can tell by when I'm looking at the folks who are talking, competent, great Americans. Our local talk show is Bill Cunningham always calls himself the Great American. Hannity picked that up for you're a great American. No, you're a great American. And yeah, thanks to everybody. And Nikki with her work makes me look like I might be competent, but don't jump to any conclusions. Okay, so somebody's put some more in the chat there. Well, listen, Dr. Q, thanks everybody for coming. We'll close the formal part of the recorded call down right now.
Jim?
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question. Jim,
Dan,
I have a
hold
question.
Hold on. You're not coming through. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it told me my internet connection is stable, but anyways, you mentioned you're a great American, Bill Cunningham.
Yeah.
Is great American Bill Cunningham, who also happens to be an attorney, is he a precinct committeeman in Ohio?
No, and I can't get him. He calls himself a great American, but none of these guys will. There's one guy locally. Let me not say none. Brian Thomas, who's a libertarian. He has Judge Napolitano on. He has Rand Paul on. He has Congressman Massey on. He has promoted the precinct strategy as much as anybody in the country that I have known, who's a talk show host. He's on the morning 5 to 9 on KRC, which is not WLW, which is what Cunningham's on. But he's promoted the precinct. But Bill Cunningham is a hilarious guy, but he plays it safe like so many of these conservatives do. I want to know why Hannity is not promoting this. For instance, they don't have to say we're doing Republican. They can say we're going to teach you your rights as a citizen, how you can participate in the precinct system. Everybody, we're teaching you what you should have learned in the 7th grade. By the way, Dan, it just occurred to me. Some people are telling Dan Schultz that Trump has heard about the precinct project and he doesn't care about it. I don't believe that. Dan is trying to get somebody to get him in front of Trump. If anybody knows somebody who knows somebody, I do not believe anyone has explained to Trump the precinct strategy properly. And here's why. If you don't believe it, I've quit sending people, Dan and Nikki, to do my errands for me if I want to say something. Because you know why? They say, hey, President Trump, we have this. And maybe Trump says, I don't know about that. I'm not familiar with that. And then they want to protect their own reputation usually, and they back off. Oh, I don't want to be associated with something Trump might not like. You need somebody who believes it to the core of their being, like Dan Schultz sitting in front of Trump. So I don't believe that's ever happened. I don't believe it. So if anybody can help get Dan in front of Trump, then that's what needs to be done. And then you got somebody who believes it. The same goes for General Flynn. You could do more work with him and all these other people. It's got to be somebody sitting there who believes it. And when the person raises objections, they immediately, with full belief, answer the objections. If that person is not there, and you can rarely train somebody quickly to stand in for you, if you're the one who really believes it, then the person, especially the important, powerful person they're talking to, will not get the message. They'll sense that even the person talking to them doesn't really believe it. So I just wanted to say that I don't believe that's ever happened. If Trump would blow the whistle, and we had on openletter-to-donaldtrump.com, we had for 4 years or maybe not 4, but most of the years, set up 10 phone lines. And in these rallies say, we want to teach every American how to run for precinct executive. This is how we really change the destiny of the country. Call this number and we'll have people tell you and help you run for precinct in your area. If Trump would do that, within 2 years, we would be roaring to take over the country. And believe me, there would be emergency meetings in the Waldorf Astoria and in Washington, D.C. What are we going to do now that the people are awake and know how we got here? You know, that's what would happen. So, okay. Anybody else? Maybe if there's anybody else, we want to give everybody a chance. Thanks again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dan real quick, the list of books, can we put that on our resource page at the bottom that they were recommended by you? Do you want that public?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Everybody should read all of those books.
Okay, I'm going to put it on resources and link page at the bottom. Thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Going. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Huh? Dawn? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And then you could, if anybody wants to stay around and keep talking after the recording.
Roy wants raise up his hand.
Okay, Roy. Go.
He just wanted to wave. I'm sorry.
Oh, he's saying goodbye. Okay, so you can stay on or talk if you want after the recording ends, but thank you everybody for coming. This will be the end of the meeting for May 21st, 2021. Thanks, Dan Schultz, for being our guest, and over and out.